So now that we have finished part one of our course orientation, I'm going to take you into part two. And part two is really just starting to set up the framework for the academic part of the class. And as you can see here under the part two section of the module, it's broken down by the syllabus and basically our Zoom meetings when we have to meet for particular issues, the American Government Student Study site, which I'll show you in a second, our textbook information, and then probably the most important aspect here is the discussion information and the quiz information. And that's what I'll finish up with here. And then we'll jump into some of the other things that I have available for you. And then I'll take you into the first week module so I can show you the structure of how the modules are from week to week during the class. Okay, so first off, real quickly here, let me show you the syllabus. And as you all know, the syllabus is, of course, the roadmap for the entire course. It lays out all the requirements, so make sure you look through it carefully because you are held responsible for the information and all the academic requirements from the syllabus. So it has all relevant information, course description, objectives of the class, the instructional method that we'll be using. It also has the textbook information and information on our study site, again, which I'll be showing you momentarily. Technology requirements, of course, you will need some sort of technology, computer, laptop, or something, the tablet or something to use for the class. Now, I can't stress to you enough, and I'm sure most of you know that Canvas does have a site for Android and for iPhones and iPads. Um, but if you have any issues with technology or if you do not have access to computers or laptops, let me know and I will forward you on to people on campus who can get you access to technology so that you can complete the class and are able to do the work. Okay, so do that ASAP. Um, Again, computer requirements are there, layout of the weekly assignments, the grade breakdown for the class. The quizzes are 10 quizzes, each one's worth 20 points for a total of 200 points. The discussions are 40 points each. There are 10 of those as well for a total of 400 points. So the total for the class is 600 points. And you can see the breakdown. This is the 90 percentile range. This is the 80 percentile range, and this is the 70 and so forth. Um, the rest of it's really just informational things, so I don't really have to belabor this. You can read through the policies and all the various things. Of course, the classroom etiquette doesn't apply to you since there is no classroom for this. Other than I would say, if we're ever in a big chat room doing a discussion for the entire class, please be aware that you should be respectful of the opinions of other people. Okay. Um, Also, time management, that's a big issue I briefly mentioned before, but it's really important you understand that, there is a certain amount of time and a certain amount of discipline that's required to be able to navigate a online class. So it's not sometimes as simple as people think it is, but we'll do our best to try and make sure you stay on top of things. Please don't cheat. In this situation, the biggest thing cheating is plagiarism. And so we'll talk more about that in detail a little bit later. But yeah, that's one of the things you definitely don't want to do. And then lastly is basically the course roadmap or calendar that you saw up above in the first part of the orientation. It's just laid out here for you as well, all the way up until the end. And we end on July 30th. And that's it. So therein lies the syllabus. And again, you should start there and just take a look through it so you know where things are. You don't have to be the expert. If you want to set up a Zoom meeting for me or with me, rather, you can let me know, and if we have a private conversation, I can do that with you. It's perfectly fine. We can arrange that. Also, a lot of times when I'm doing office hours, I'll set up and click on Pronto here, and Pronto will allow me to open up and basically set up a group open office hours so that basically I can open up to everyone, and you could drop in and ask a question so that anyone in the class could be able, would be able to also be able to get feedback to. So I use that a lot since most people don't really drop into office hours much. I just kind of open it up for an hour and leave it open for questions across the entire class. Um, this was really kind of cool for so the textbook comes with a study site that the publisher provides, and the purpose is to help you be able to sort of master the information. So when you click on the link above here, this little link above the picture here, it will take you to open up another tab and take you to the instructor, the Sage site, and you don't have to worry about logging in. It's a free site, and you see it says student resources. And here, all you have to do, like, see, this is chapter one, chapter two, and so forth. So and they're all set up the same structure. So if you look here, the learning objectives are set up at first. The quizzes, and these are quizzes that are not the quizzes that you have inside of Canvas. These are quizzes that the publisher provides that you can practice with to help you prepare for the quizzes that you take actually inside of Canvas. You also have access to flashcards, which help you be able to sort of learn the terminology. So, for example, here you see the term anarchy. And if you flip the card, it tells you what anarchy is. And so, therefore, you get a chance to sort of understand the basis of what the terminology that you're going to be learning is all about. Okay, let me continue on here. Again, you don't have to memorize all this. You can simply just click on the tabs and go to it as you need to be able to sort of understand where things are. The next one talks a little bit more in detail about the textbook, and if you want to purchase it here, you can purchase it. If you want the ebook version, that is. It's also available, of course, as I think I mentioned earlier, it's available in the bookstore. The used books, I think, are around $30, I think. It's really an inexpensive book, but a very well done book. And the reason I love this book, by the way, is because it's one of the only books that all starts with the premise that all of you are not political science majors. In fact, most of you are not political science majors. So what it does is it gives you the basics. And I love that about the way that she writes. I think the book is very well written, probably one of the best out of the dozens and dozens and dozens of American government books that I have critiqued and that I have supported and built and helped work on. This one I love. It's actually one of my favorites. So I think she's done a really good job on this particular textbook. So anyhow, you can certainly access and get ebook here. Or again, you can get the book in the bookstore. You could also probably look online through Amazon and other sites that you can go to find it as well. Probably find it as low as $25 or maybe even $20 somewhere. But you definitely want to get this as soon as possible. This is one of the things you do not want to delay on. So you need to get up and running quickly because we're only 6 weeks, not even quite 6 full weeks in this session. So you need to get going very quickly. Okay, so please remember that. Okay. Um, and then if you have any technical support issues regarding your ebook, here's access to that. Now, the next thing I want to share with you is this also, and I'd argue probably one of the most important components is the discussion, because the discussions are basically what would naturally happen in class. So if you were in one of my classes, we would be sitting in and we'd be watching and talking about different things. And after watching or talking about some particular aspects of, say political science or say the Constitution, for example, I would simply say, so what do you think about that? Or how do you feel about that? Or, something along that line. And then we would get into a big class discussion about some particular controversial issue. And so now you have to be able to do that and write it out. So instead of talking about it necessarily, at least verbalizing it, you're going to be doing it in a way where you're going to be doing it online. And so with that, I really want to make sure that you understand how the discussions work. So I have placed in here for you a video for the discussions that will walk you through basically what you have here to do in the discussions. And it also takes you to, which is why I don't have to go through all the detail here, it takes you to the discussions in every chapter. So it also tells you what happens when you click on the chapter discussion, what you have to watch, and what you have to do. So rather than tying up a lot of time here with that, it's laid out for you inside of this discussion video. And then also what's here is the quiz video, which talks about the quizzes and basically what they are and why they're important. So these things right here are really essentially you must do them, you must see them, you must watch them because as soon as you hit the ground running, the discussions are going to be an essential part of that. And in that, Again, one thing, and I'll reiterate, so I'm going to go in here for a moment, that I can't stress to you enough, is making sure that the information that you provide in the discussions are well thought out, critically show your critical thinking skills. When I ask you what you think, I don't want a 1 or 2 line answer. I want a paragraph of information that says that you clearly understand or have a feeling or an opinion about that particular issue. Okay. So do make sure that you do that. These are just samples. So I put in here samples of the discussions that I thought some of them that were very well done. Uh, but when you see things like this, and this is long before now, we've modified all this now, but this would be considered not a very good response. This is very short, and I would expect to see responses in your discussions that are more to this length, or maybe at shortest, maybe something like this. But you definitely want to make sure that you've covered enough information. And if you haven't, I will tell you so early on, so you'll know what I expect of you. But I do expect you to write, and each thing that you write to be a sufficient amount of information. So do keep that in mind because that's really where a lot of the learning goes on for the class. The quizzes are really built for you to be able to make sure you're doing the reading, but this is really make sure you're doing your thinking. And that's why I have a lot of points allotted for your discussions. Okay. All right. So with that, that covers that part of it. Now, there's some other things in here that actually are really good for you as well, and that is the PowerPoints. So the PowerPoints are built around, again, every chapter, and you can either look at them directly on Canvas. So if you don't have access to Microsoft PowerPoint, you can see the PowerPoints directly inside of Canvas. If you do have it, you can certainly click here and it will open up. I have a link so you can open it up directly in PowerPoint as well. And it basically takes you through the entire layout of every chapter. So while you're waiting to get the book, this is a great place to be able to start to kind of understand the big issues within each chapter. And I would argue it's a great starting point to prepare for your quizzes too. So this is where you should always take a look as you get going in every particular chapter. Always start with the PowerPoints. I think you'll find that to be really helpful for you. Okay. Also in here, and I'm not going to open this up. And by the way, if any of these are closed, you just click this little arrow, and then when it opens downward, it opens up the entire link. But this is basically just some of the charts and graphs and data for the chapters, and there's laid out here for every single chapter. And then below that is what I call the newsroom, and this basically are news sources that tend to be nonpartisan. So I'm not trying to push people to the right or left, but tend to be a little more balanced in their orientation of regarding politics and what's going on planet Earth. Uh, and so I put them in here for you. Hopefully you'll use them, particularly as you're starting to look at some of the questions we're going to be talking about in class. I think that's going to be really important. And then after that, we get into, and last but not least, by the way, is the weekly framework of the class, the weekly modules. And they're all structured the same way. I went through this last few weeks and I tried to make them as clear and concise as possible. So once you get through the orientation, this is what you come to. And you'll see for every week, there is a chapter overview. And under the chapter overview, there is the learning objective for the chapter. And then there is my lecture in the chapter. And that's a video. It's a videotaped lecture. So you'll see it and you'll be watching it as a video. And then you have your chapter resources, which again, your ebook, PowerPoint. There's some videos that are built in here and along with your flashcards for that particular chapter. And then below that are the assignments. And the assignments are the same week after week. It's the only one you have in the first week that's different is the discussions for getting to know each other. That's just an introduction to introducing yourself to the class. The rest of them are always structured the same. You will always have a quiz. You'll always have a discussion every week. So here's first week, then you have your then end of week one, then the next week is week two. You can see it's structured the same way. Learning objective, lecture, same resources. And then for the assignments, you have the quizzes and the discussion. And the due dates are all laid out in here for you as well. Uh, just so you know, again, reminder that the discussions, even though they're open until the end of the summer session, to the 30th, but after July 4th, they will be considered late. So there will be a minor point deduction if you turn them in late. So do try to stay on top of them. I do understand, by the way, the second week is going to be busier than most, by the way, because chapter three, which is, I would argue, is the most important chapter in the entire book, deals with civil rights. And in here, in the discussion, uh, there are several videos that I want you to watch. And there are some of them are short, really just clips, and other ones may be like an hour long, but I want you to watch all of them. They are fundamentally important to what's going on in America right now and the issue with race relations and all the craziness that's happening. There's some things you need to see. I want you to watch that. I would wish I had you in class because we would discuss it very thoroughly in class if we were in class. Um, but we're not, and that's unfortunate. So we'll try to do the best we can with it when we hit chapter three. So it may be a little more time consuming for you. And then we progress to the next chapters, and you can see the dates of the week are laid out there. We'll start from Sunday to Saturday, and then again the chapter context is all laid out for you. So I couldn't make it any clearer than that, I don't think. And I think that's it. I think I am done with my last bit of orientation here. And if you have any other questions, I will be around. Feel free to reach out to me. And I am really excited about being able to hopefully get to know some of you throughout this brief summer session. Okay. Thanks a lot, you guys. Have a great rest of your day.